Let the chaos reign. Chaos Reign presents Have the Black Church Failed Blacks in the 21st Century? With special guest Dr. Funder. Broadcast July 11th, 2021. Enjoy.
The views expressed on Talk Real Solutions, hosted by Tyrone Thompson at TalkRealSolutions.com, are the views of Tyrone Thompson and do not reflect the views of TalkRealSolutions.com, YouTube, or etc. The content here belongs to Talk Real Solutions and its many contributors. Views and opinions expressed by all contributors belong to them and not TalkRealSolutions.com or Tyrone Thompson, the host, or etc. All data and information provided on the site is for informational purposes only. Talk Real Solutions makes no representations as to accuracy, completeness, correctness, suitability, or validity of any information on this site and will not be liable for any errors, omissions, or delays in this information or any losses, injuries, or damages arising from its display or use. All information is provided on an as-is basis.
In a world where there's crime, corruption, violence, murder, rape, theft, and all forms of atrocities that plague the world in which we live in today, what we're witnessing, we are living in a state of chaos and are taking more greater or extreme chaos to restore the order in which the world we live in today. Good evening, black people. This is Chaos right here. And tonight, we are, how can I say it, going back to a title that made, Talk Real Solutions very popular for the last couple of years. But, at times before I give it a title, let me go into more other things. For those that want to know and follow latest news and articles, go to TalkRealSolutions.com. There you see a list of black banks, black business, and articles that is going on in current events. You can find it on talkworldsolution.com. Also, you can find Talk World Solution on Facebook. Type in Talk World Solution Facebook, the special Facebook group, which if you like the Facebook group, you'll be invited to the special chat room on Talk World Solutions, which, gets very hectic, very, wild. In regards to like back and forth about politics, etc. I mean, I tell you, if you subscribe to the Facebook group, you'll know what I'm talking about. I can give you more detail of that. So, find us on Facebook, Talk World Solutions. Also, Talk World Solutions is on YouTube as well. Same name, line. Subscribe to the channel if you want. And if you want to contribute to Talk World Solutions, you can find that information on the website and other outlets. You can give as little as, $2, $5, whoever the channel is worth. So, you could, contribute to the channel of Talk World Solutions there. And always, me, Chaos Rain, you can find me on YouTube as well. Type in Chaos Rain. I have a channel as well. Still pushing to get to, the audience I need. But, keep pushing, like always. And also, you can follow me on Twitter at ChaosRain7 and add me on Facebook, Eric Rain. That's the name on Facebook, Eric Rain. All right, so that's all the detail I'm giving. So let's begin and deal with the subject at hand, shall we? So let me pull it up. Hold on. Is the thing up? 1 second, guys. I'm trying to pull it up. Here we go. Tonight's subject is titled, Chaos Rain presents, Had the Black Church Failed Black People, or just failed in general, in the 21st century? I have a special guest for the very first time here on Talk World Solutions, the one and only Dr. Thunder. Dr. Thunder, as I see you in line, as I open your line, good afternoon or good evening, Dr. Thunder. Welcome. First time on Talk World Solutions. Can you hear me, brother?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you well. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Wonderful. Welcome and thank you again for attending this particular festivities and the subject at hand, Dr. Thunder. But before we go into the subject at hand, I'd like to take a moment of time. I'd like to go back in the past, then leap to the present, and potentially go into the future. So the first time here on Talk World Solutions, you could tell the people for the first time listening a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Yeah, Dr. Thunder is that's my convenient marketing name. I actually have a doctorate. My education is in music. On my channel, on my YouTube channel, where you can find, just looking for Dr. Thunder, you'll find a interview series called Conversations with Dr. Thunder, where I interview, musicians, athletes, philanthropists, politicians, academics, and a number of folks from the manosphere, red pill content creators. And my goal is to, as the Conversations with Dr. Thunder suggests, is to try to get some unusual conversations going. I also have a live stream on my channel called Thunder's Thoughts. On the last episode, we covered, the topic was Adam, the first simp.
And I missed that one. That was one I was going to really go back and watch, but I didn't get a chance. But go on, continue.
Well, we're going to have a part 2 next week. I should say this week, since it's Sunday. It'll be Wednesday, live at 4:15. That is 4:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that'll be live streaming to YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. And then, I'm a musician, and so there's a lot of performance videos. I frequently tour with, a number of bands, and I've got my own groups, and I'm a tenured professor at a major university.
Okay. Excellent. All right. The thing I had to ask, how familiar your understanding of the history of the institution of, let's say, church in general, not say the black church, because church is one entity as I said, but in general, your knowledge about the history of the church in a lot of communities. How well you know about that?
Sure. So part of my musical journey has included playing in churches, and I've done that for years and years. It's been a major part of my creative output. And I've played in, I've served as a creative director in a mega church, a big evangelical mega church, which is kind of an integrated type of church, more or less sort of a modified kind of typical guitar-driven kind of thing. Also, the last church I worked at, where I was the minister of music, was a missionary Baptist church. Of course, very much different from the evangelical thing. And I'm actually an Orthodox Christian. The first church that I was a band director and I was a pastor's assistant in, that was right when I finished my master's degree. And so my first full-time job was working in church, working at a church, and that was it was a black church, kind of a Pentecostal, Word of Faith, charismatic, non-denominational kind of thing. The pastor at that church I'm still really good friends with. It was a church in Kalamazoo, Michigan, so I was there full time for a year and a half. I actually worked there for about a year and a half, part time, before I took the full time position. So I have a lot of knowledge on that. On the sort of theological and sort of apologetic side, my undergraduate degree, was major in music. My minor was in comparative religion, and I've been a sort of lay scholar, leading all kinds of Bible studies and then also apologetics groups in churches, and so history, not just sort of American church history, but just church history period, something that I'm fascinated with, and then of course in particular the black church, because of my frequent participation in those services, and because of the importance of the black church to the black community.
Okay, excellent. My thing, because I have not been in church like that for over, I think one time I attended maybe a few funerals, but in regards to participating in the church, I left at a point in my life as I was approaching, actually when I was just an actual adult, and that was like decades ago, to be honest with you. And when I look back now at it, and I hear from other brothers, particularly other consecrators, about how the decline of the males in the church institution, I look at it, and if I ask anybody, I would get pretty much pushback, Dr. Funder, because a lot of women, especially if I ask and tell them this, they don't feel a lot of males are really leaving the church. The churches that I sometimes might have messed with or known, or the ones that they attend, they don't see the emphasis that when I say I'm failing blacks, I'm not talking about just black men or black women. I'm just in general, because a lot of people that took their time and energy and their trust in the church overall has really failed the community now in this new century in than the previous century. I can't speak about the last century because I went to church. well, as an adult now reflecting, I had to look at there's some parts that the church possibly could do better, but overall, when we look at how the community was back then and where it's now and possibly it's going, it is a reflection that it is a failure, you know. And even talking about this is a reflection itself. I'm not sure if you want to agree, disagree, or have any response to what as I said.
Yeah, so there's a general problem with the accuracy of anecdotal evidence. Okay, so anecdotal evidence. So, for instance, that you were saying that you have conversations with women and they don't seem to agree that men are missing in church and like this, and that's anecdotal, right? Now, if you look at the actual statistics, and the reason that we collect statistics is so that our own personal vantage point on an issue does not override the facts. Okay, so we collect this data so that we can have it's a way to try to minimize your own personal bias. So all the statistics show that there has been a pretty profound reduction in black men in the black church. Okay, now this has been sort of steadily declining, and I think over the last, say, especially 20 years, there's been a real a real sharp decline in the participation of black men of a certain age group. Now, black men or black boys, their participation in church, we wouldn't say that has declined because they're still sort of being forced to go to church.
Yeah, because with the mother. Yeah.
That's right. And at the same time that black men have been disappearing, there's been an increase of single mothers. And so basically what's happened is a lot of the messaging from the pulpit has changed from this sort of fire and brimstone, you need to, follow the rules, stay within these particular parameters, you don't want to. So there's an expression: if you go and you remove a fence and you don't know why that fence was there in the first place, once you remove the fence, you're going to find out, right? And it may not be something that you want. What we've done, and this is an American culture issue, but it has had a pretty profound impact in the church. And I would not, and I don't want this to seem like I'm just picking on black church, because you would see a lot of these dynamics in church period. And when I say church period, I'm really talking about modern church. I'm talking about, sort of pop Christianity, mega churches and the like. You're going to see that the way that the preaching used to be, where it was very, very assertive, and it talked about stuff like, not having kids before you're married, and talking about, stuff like, abstinence, preached, stuff like, if you're, things like modesty for women. I'm sure you know who Geno Jennings is.
Wait, Geno Jennings, let me think. No, keep going.
Yeah. So Geno Jennings, and he took a lot of flack for this, but he tells you, he shoots right between the eyes. And his church, there's no shortage of men, and it's packed. All right, it's a black church, okay? No shortage of men, and it's packed. When the preachers have enough intestinal fortitude and are to preach the word, and not to avoid things that maybe they might feel like, well, I don't know if the feminists want us saying this or not. That's become a problem. So it's a lot of politically correct stuff. And if you look in the church and you see that it's dominated by single mothers, if you're preaching a lot of messages that seem like it's condemning the behavior of single mothers, you're going to wind up with no people in the church. And so I think there's some fear associated.
I see.
Yeah, I think there's some fear associated with, preaching. Now, this has always been the case. We've always had a situation where, it's a hard thing to be a preacher because you have a lot of things that you're trying to balance. But the thing is that in the past, more than not, we had a lot of fiery preachers, and they were stating facts. They were saying the truth. But as that has waned, I think we've ended up with a lot of these other issues. And as the sort of political positions of the ministers has sort of moved further and further left, I think that we've started to have a lot more kind of soft and friendly kind of messages, which, first of all, men are not. That's not, and a lot of finger wagging against men, like, oh, you need to just man up. You need to take responsibility. You need to X, Y, and Z. Don't cite any of the issues, any of the valid issues that men may be having. Don't actually provide any kind of, providing any help or messages that would help men to, get their stuff together, to level up, get their money right, get their
mind right, their body right, all that stuff. Yeah, things that are essential to manhood. Yeah, continue.
That's right. There's virtually none of that coming from the pulpit. And
was it always like that? Because I never remember. My church, I go to Episcopalian. I don't know if that's what they pronounce it, or one of them special church. I remember when I sit every weekend that the pastor always advised the males to not only be providers, but all the essentials of manhood. Maybe not in that way how we're laying out, but not in that form. Last my check, it's been a long time since I left the church, but I'm not sure from what you can recall, because you're older than me, that do you ever recall, even back then, not now, but back then, that there was such an emphasis during the message that there was promotion of that?
Yeah, there was more of an emphasis. I mean, the two places that you used to really be able to, as a man, have those kind of edgy conversations, and the men that didn't have a relationship with their dad, they could find people that would provide mentorship and whatnot, were the barbershop and the church.
Yeah.
Okay, the barbershop and the church, and those are not really. Those are not. For most black men, they do not feel particularly invited by the church anymore. And I mean, if you think about it, in black church in particular, so stuff like, emotional outbursts, the preacher's got, flashy, got a flashy suit on or flashy robe or whatever. There's a lot of sort of pomp and circumstance. All of that stuff, none of that stuff is masculine. That's not the.
It's more pimpish in a way, don't you think? Don't you think it's more pimpish?
Well, it's going to get me in trouble, but I'm going to say.
Okay, all right.
I think that there's some influence. I think there's some mutual influence. I think there's mutual influence. The same thing that is influencing pimps is influencing preachers. I'm not going to say that necessarily preachers are being influenced by pimps. I think that there are reasons why, if your congregation is dominated by women, then you're going to tend to do things that are going to cater to women and are going to get certain kinds of reactions, and then therefore encourage donation and everything else. I'm not in And I'm not even saying that this is like an intentional thing. I'm not saying like, I see a bunch of women in here. I know I can get them to give me money by being flashy X, Y, and Z. No, you have in the black community, disproportionately men do not have relationships with their dad. They're raised by their mothers, so they become more feminine already and more emotional. And so it's a natural place for someone like that to be in the pulpit, right? Because that's going to be a natural place where they can sort of cater to things, like they learned when they were growing up, because they didn't have a guy in their life, right? So I think a lot of that sort of comes naturally. It's a general issue that we have in our community, and we know that it's a gynocracy in the black in the black community. It's a gynocracy. It's certainly not a patriarchy, right? Because everything has been flipped. Men are disproportionately not in the homes, and much of that was incentivized by certain policies, governmental policies. But at some point, we have to take responsibility for what's going on, and that's not just men taking responsibility. That's also women taking responsibility.
I see. Okay. Oh, the call number for people that wants to participate is 712-770-4160. The access code is 917-324#. I repeat, 712-770-4160. Access code 917-324#. Today's subject, Chaos Reign presents, Have the Black Church Failed Blacks in the 21st Century? Now, in regards to the development of, not just men and women, but people in general, and you said before that, there's an element that, let's be honest, men are not really appreciative now for God knows few decades now, because the direction the church wants to take either a congregation or just position, because they want to, I guess, keep afloat of profits than just, I guess, the sanctity of the people, the salvation, and etc. And I came to grips and understanding of this. And as a man now, it kind of hurts a way, but I understand it in a business fashion. But the problem is, once you start going to the business way of things, then I don't know if I want to say the word morality starts to throw out the window. Regardless, what's the outcome for the people that you depend on every weekend to keep certain things afloat? In my mind,
Yeah. So mega churches, for instance, in many of the churches with pastors that are recognizable, like that everybody knows who they are, those would be classified as mega churches. Any church where there are so many people attending the church that you need a staff of pastors to have any kind of interaction with the congregation. In other words, the senior pastor doesn't really have he's not really like, he doesn't know everybody in the church. He doesn't recognize everybody. There's so many people that there's no way that he can know everybody. Okay. Then in the early church conception, and when I say early church, I'm talking, 2,000 years ago, early church. In the early church, that is not the model. That is not the church model. If a church gets over, say, 500 or 600 members, it's time for another church. And when I say another church, I'm not talking about splitting the church. I'm saying the church is still in communion. It's still it's still part of the same kind of church or whatever, but that there's different places where that church community is meeting, because it's not possible for the pastor to really have the kind of relationship he needs to have with his flock in order to impart, mentorship and all of the other kinds of things that you want to get from the pastor, not just the stuff that's coming from the pulpit. Okay. So for instance, if you need like a staff of pastors to go to the funeral homes and stuff when people die, and then that's a signal that the church might be too big. And now when I say that, I'm talking about early church standards. Okay. Now, if you have a church and your auditorium is 5,000, 6,000, 10,000, whatever it is, even if you have, say, in a 6,000 seat auditorium, say, even if you have 5,000 people in there, it is only natural and only human to be looking around and being like, man, there sure is a lot of empty seats. What can I do to get people in those seats? Right? That's just a human thing. If you're consciously doing that or not, that's just a natural human thought. Okay? I'm a performer. I've been, playing on stages in front of big audiences for a long time. And I have the same sense. That's how I can say this. I have the same sense. It's like you're in a venue, and if the venue is not totally full, one of the thoughts that occurs is, man, I wonder what could have happened, differently to get some more people in here. Now imagine doing that every Sunday, right? And so, I think even if you're not even if you're not consciously aware of this, I think subconsciously you're going to start saying things or doing things in a way that result in more people showing up. And that's not that calculus, that part of it, that is not anywhere Christian. That's not the point. And that's why smaller churches, you're going to tend to have preachers that are going to be, it's going to be a little easier for them to be able to say what it is that they need to say, what needs to actually be said, not the popular thing, not the message that gets a lot of clapping, but the edgy stuff, the stuff that's hard to hear, the stuff that, the castor oil sermons, where it might not feel good when it goes down, but it's going to be good for you.
Yeah. There's a consequence for every action, and the pastor lets know, said, if you're not staying on this path, you know what's going to happen. I get you. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's and that can't be understated. Now, I also want to say that there are a number of churches, and I worked at some of them, where there are a lot of men, and where, because the pastor was a masculine pastor, and he really catered to the men. He really addressed the issues that the men needed to be addressed. He really focused on those things. Matter of fact, the first church that I worked at, the one in Kalamazoo, when the pastor there, Joel Brooks, name of the church was Christian Life Center. Now it's Stone Church. But Joel Brooks Jr., when he inherited the church, it was something like 75 to 80% women. Okay, which was pretty typical even in those days, because this was a long time ago. Which was pretty typical for churches, for black churches. And so he said, they decided that, look, we need to go after the men. And so they had to change things. They had to stop catering to the women. And they probably lost some women too. and he focused on men.
I believe that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And now see what happened. What happened was you ended up with a 50-50 congregation, and actually, I guess the local newspaper actually did a story on the church because it was seen as it was a huge deal that a church was 50-50, especially given from where it came from. And then, of course, it changed. That dynamic changed. It's not exactly 50-50 anymore. It wasn't, because if you have men in your church, the women will come.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
Okay.
Because they're looking for a man, or what they call.
That's right.
He who find a good wife. I think that's why. Go ahead.
Yeah, but these are the kinds of. I think this is the kind of approach that. It's a minority approach. It's an approach that, unfortunately, not as many of our churches have that kind of male leadership, that kind of men, or that kind of man in the pulpit, leading the church. Geno Jennings' church is another example of this. There's no shortage of men in that church. There is no shortage of men in that church, but he's up there shooting you in between the eyes. He's stating facts. So, and he takes a lot of heat for it. You have to be willing to take heat. I wonder about the sort of psychology of someone that decides that they want to be a preacher, but they don't really want to say anything that's edgy, or they don't want to offend anybody. That's not the right job for you. That ain't the right job for you. It seems like maybe a politician, maybe you should be a politician, but that's not what we need in the pulpit. We don't need politicians. We need people that are unafraid to say the truth.
Of course. That's what the last stand for any society to really know if they're on the right path or not. Someone has to really be the bad guy at the end of the day, like if I want to use that word, and tell you what it is. But yeah.
Yeah.
But one thing I do want to say, because you mentioned women, and I'm not sure what's the percentage of women pastors in America. I don't know if anybody ever did data on that, but I bet you it's not even 10% in America. I doubt it. Maybe I could be wrong, but
yeah.
I know of one lady that was a pastor, but she's not from America. She's from South America. The church I once attended, but yeah. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, female pastors is a trend that is sort of on the rise.
Okay.
And that again is one of these. It is a. What do I want to say? It's an artifact or a byproduct of aspects of the feminist movement. Okay.
Okay.
So, and of course, somebody who's listening to this is probably, cussing me out for saying that. But that's absolutely where that comes from. The Bible's very clear on the roles that women should occupy, and there's no, in the history of the church, we know that there were women that preached. That is something that happened in the history of the church. There were deaconesses, and I'm talking very early church. This is something that did exist. But if you look at all of the churches that have an unbroken apostolic succession, in other words, through the process of what am I saying? When someone becomes a priest or a bishop, they go through a process, and as they're ordained, right? The person that's ordaining them has to have the authority to ordain, right? And so there's an unbroken succession of these folks that had that authority to ordain the next person. It's like a master apprentice relationship that goes all the way back to one of the 12 disciples of Christ. So there are there are a few churches that have that unbroken apostolic succession. Now, I would argue there's actually only one, but others would argue that there are at least three. Okay, so the Roman Catholic Church, the Anglican Church, and then the Orthodox Church. Now, I would argue that the Orthodox Church is the direct error. But my point is that all churches that belong to that succession, there is a clear role for women and men with respect to ordination, with respect to what it is that you how you participate in the service. Okay, and that's no subjugation of women. In fact, the most highly revered person, only second to Jesus and God, in the Orthodox Church and in the Catholic Church and in the Anglican Church, is Mary, the mother of Jesus.
Okay.
So there's no subjugation here, and there are highly revered and reverenced saints in the church that are female. Okay. Matter of fact, the said to be the sort of saint of, or the representative of confession, Saint Mary of Egypt. But there's specific roles that each play. So there are no female bishops. There's no female priests. You know. So yeah. Now and there's only certain locations. There's certain locations where women are not allowed to go. You know. So for instance, up inside by the altar, where the communion is being prepared. You know. So. And again, that's not politically correct. That's not the sort of thing that, but you can see why certain women, especially the ones that have sort of really bought into a lot of the feminist agenda, would be particularly, they would not be into that. They would see that as being some sort of subjugation, some sort of, see, there's the patriarchy, and all of that. But even if you look all the way back into the Garden of Eden, Adam had a purpose before he had a spouse, and the Bible is very clear that women should be submissive and cooperative, and all of these kinds of things, and that the man, the husband, should be in the leadership position. That doesn't mean that he doesn't listen to his wife, of course. That's not what we're talking about. But, I mean, it's all in the Bible. And at one point, saying this was not controversial, because this is all clearly in the Bible. It's very clearly presented in the Bible. It's not even something that is like veiled, or like, oh, I could see how you could kind of interpret that, a variety of ways. No, it's very clear. It's just some folks have decided to ignore, large portions of Scripture, and
especially the Old Testament. They really wanted to not deal with the Old Testament. They want to deal with the New Testament, because Old Testament, and I'm not sure if you can correct me, I'm Dr. Funder, but does the Old Testament reflect more of men being more, I'm using like the pills, for example, more red pill than ever?
I would say both. I would say both the Old Testament and the New Testament are profoundly red pill.
Okay, so both. Okay.
I mean, there's no question about it. I mean, it's so clearly that way. There is a and people need to understand, like, we know what we mean by a red pill. But some folks are still sort of confused by what is meant by that. It's just I like how this is pretty simple, but JLP, Jesse Lee Peterson, frequently talks about the sort of order of God, the order of God. He says, God over man, man over women, women over children. There it is.
Yeah, there is.
I mean, and that's clearly what the Bible says, right? That's clearly what it says. I mean, am I making that up? Right?
Nah.
So, yeah. So, and everything else, all of this, a lot of these sort of red pill principles, as far as like the interactions between men and women, in particular in healthy relationships, they reflect that same order. And when you find strife and you find, elevated levels of divorce and everything else, pretty much you're going to see some sort of issue with that line. Now that's not to take some sort to make it easy on the dude. The guy has all of the responsibility, and if he's not on his purpose, that's right. If he's not on his purpose and not willing to die for his wife, as the Bible says, and willing to die for his family, willing to sacrifice and do whatever necessary, then his family's not going to be successful. Kevin Samuels frequently says, pressure is meant for shoulders and not hips. Right? And so we're clearly designed, men are clearly designed to take on a particular kind of role, to take on the stress, to take on the, women are not, there are some women that can handle it. You can find some anecdotal, you can find some anomaly. But women in general are not designed to handle the kind of stress that men can. And
we can
that's
see that
just
in our environment right now. We can see it now in our environment. Look what has happened in the past year. Look what happened to the rise of certain content creators. It's evident when the environment changes, you as a man, miraculously, if you're not with or got luck with the ladies, and you're doing what you should be doing, being productive like always, because if you're not productive as a man, we all know what happens, Dr. Dunbar, what happens to men in this society. There's two things going to happen. Either you're going to possibly turn life to criminality, which will lead to jail or death, or you be homeless. And we have to keep expressing this enough time. There is no safety net for men.
Thank you.
In the society.
Thank you.
So as a woman, you must know, and hear me well, that you know where to find a certain type of men when trouble hits. That's all I gotta say. Continue.
Right. You get the hey big head text. Okay. So yeah, that I frequently say that, there is no safety net, as you put it. There's no glass floor for men. There is no glass floor for men. Homelessness is the bottom location for men. For women, albeit maybe inconvenient, there's always a line to stand in to be served, to at least get basic needs met. And now, with men there's a burden of performance, and frankly, it doesn't matter what the bottom side is for me. I'm never going to be on the bottom because I'm going to work. I'm going to get it in so that I'm not on the bottom. So there is this burden of performance that men are constantly under, and I'm very hard on men. Men need to understand that nobody is coming to their rescue. So you either make it happen for yourself and make no excuses. And that's one thing I learned from my dad, is not to make excuses. He would not allow me to make excuses. That might be the single greatest thing that I learned from him, is not to make excuses. It doesn't matter what it looks like. It doesn't matter how much easier somebody else has it. None of that stuff matters. Complaining isn't going to do anything. You just have to get it happening. Because, especially once you become a father, and I have a 7-year-old.
Oh yeah, you gotta make it happen. There's no if but.
Yeah.
You have to.
That's right. My son doesn't care. He doesn't have any knowledge of what it is that I'm dealing with and the kind of stuff that I have to do. And he doesn't need to know that. Not until he's older, so we can start having those conversations. But he don't have any idea what's going on. He just knows if there's food to eat, if the lights are on, if the air conditioning is working, if he's able to go and participate in X, Y, and Z. We got him playing baseball now. If he's able to participate in that, we've got him in a private school. So all he knows is, hey, is this stuff happening or not? I mean, he don't care about my excuses. My excuses don't do a dadgum thing. Either this stuff is happening or it's not. And if there's something that I can do, if there's something that necessary for me to do, I'll do it. To make sure that that he's situated, and that's the burden of performance. We have to be oriented that way.
Okay. All right. Let me give the call number one more time. The call number for tonight's show is 712-770-4160. The access code is 917-324-pound. I repeat, 712-770-4160. Access code 917-324-pound. Today's subject, Chaos Reign presents: Has the Black Church failed blacks in the 21st century? Now, I see some people raise their hands, and I guess they have questions onto this subject, hopefully. So, you ready to take a few calls?
Sure.
All right. The first caller, open up. Hello, caller, you there? Who's this?
Yes. Hello, it's Miss Lady.
Okay,
can I ask, how long has your program been going? Because I've been listening about the past 35 minutes.
The show starts right now we're only close to the hour mark of this, so if you listen into enough parts, that's good enough. If you have questions, you can ask it away. You know the title of the subject, Miss Lady, so if you have any questions for my guest, Dr. Thunder, go right ahead, please.
Okay, yes. Well, I have some questions as well as some comments. And I came in when I think I don't want to misstate you, so I think you said something to the effect that the church is pretty much not doing their job when it's not condemning the behavior of single mothers or condemning the behavior of single mothers. And so my question to that is, what do you mean by condemning, and would you want the woman to wear a scarlet letter? And I didn't hear you state any type of empathy or make statements in terms of support to single mothers like you did of black males. So if you want to condemn the single mother, and I just say it's pretty much, the male, because I even hate to say the father sperm donor has abandoned his child or children. So it's really children whose fathers have abandoned them. Well, then I would focus on the single mother, because a child needs to be cared for. And the person that's going to do it, 9 times out of 10, is the mother. That's obvious. But I did hear you state about males being very emotional and not really being able to perform.
Can I address
men.
Can I address the first thing first, and then if you can kind of remember your next question. First of all, I never said that I think anything about condemning. I did say something about calling out things that are wrong and not sort of babying stuff because it's prevalent. Okay, it used to be that we have there's an epidemic going on. So you have 75 to 80% of black babies are being born out of wedlock, and that's after only 50% of black children survive because 50% of pregnancies end in abortion. So we have serious issues, and those are not issues that are referenced or even mentioned. I mean, I can't tell you the last time, and I've been in church all my life. I can't tell you the last time that I heard even a comment, anything that was even tangential to that fact. And it's something that we should be talking about. Now, I'm very hard on men, and so if men are not taking on their responsibilities, then that discussion needs to happen. But the fact is that of the two topics, the one that's referenced more often is the finger wagging at men for not taking on their responsibility from the pulpit. But that doesn't happen on the other side of this because it takes two people to make a baby. And one of the things that I think has eroded the most in our community with women is mate selection. In the entire animal kingdom.
Okay, but we're not animals. Included. Can we please not try to analogize us to lions, please? Please don't do that. That's like so old and played out, and it really doesn't apply to human beings. Could you just speak as human beings? Because what I haven't heard you say is what young men and older men need to do to prevent women from getting pregnant. That needs to be focused on because they have.
But who has? But who has? Who is the women?
The men usually pursue the women, and you know that.
I know, but women hold all the cards.
No,
okay? Women are the ones that can say
what. This is
in
the
terms
thing.
of.
But see, this is why you're going to continue to lose intelligent, educated women outside of the church because they're not buying that. And we're teaching our daughters and young women, don't fall into this male patriarchal kind of thinking because it has
Wait, hold up.
Whoa, what?
No, I'm saying that, no, we're not buying this because I'm telling you, it's women, it's this focus on finger wagging at women. And you know, Gary, how bad it's been for black women on this internet. I've just come to find out over the past year or so how bad about all of these sites, these channels, where black men are wagging their finger and condemning black women basically for breathing air. So if you're going to go into and start this finger wagging because you're a single mother at black women who are there raising those children,
But see, I don't care who. I don't care whose fault it is. What I care about is the problem being fixed, because ultimately, if this problem is not improved, if the problem doesn't get fixed, then it's going to continue to get worse. And my point is, with respect to the black church, there is clearly one side of this issue that gets referenced from the pulpit, and there's another side that does not.
I don't hear that
was my,
from the churches I've
point.
been to. Not from the churches I've been to. In the past, it was always the woman that was made to be the sinner, the transgressor. She should be ashamed. And then it was, he was young, he was ignorant, he's sowing his oats.
I don't know what church you're going to.
That is not. I don't know what church you go to. I don't know what church you go to.
That is not the.
I've been to all different types of churches. From the Jehovah's Witness, Baptist, Episcopal, Catholic.
And you're from New York, Miss Lady?
Huh?
You're from New York, right, Miss Lady?
I've been to the Buddhist place. So, no. But it's always been historically
but do you agree,
the women that have been targeted and not the men.
Yeah, but do you agree that women have control of if someone is going to have sex with them or not?
Well, I asked the ones that Bill Cosby was with. I don't know. Not all the time. So I'm going to tell you.
So you're
I'm not trying to cuss.
Okay, so let's be honest. Let's be honest and not disingenuous.
No, I'm going to say.
Do you understand what I'm? You understand what I'm asking?
It's a multidimensional subject. You want to make
it
black and white, and it's not.
That's not about me.
No.
Listen,
See,
listen.
This is why.
Listen.
No,
in relationships.
This is the
hold
thing.
Miss Lady, please. Miss Lady,
hold up.
Please let me get out. Go ahead.
So for all of recorded history, women have controlled the access to sex, and men have controlled the access to commitment. Right? So men are usually the ones that say, "Okay, all right, we'll do the commitment thing." Women are the ones that are saying if you can have access to their body or not. My point is, with over 20 forms of birth control, including a Plan B, if first of all, if the mate selection is so poor that what's happening is you end up with a bunch of deadbeats and, dudes that are not going to be involved in their kids' lives, and those end up being the choices. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know any deadbeats. There's no deadbeats in my circle. I know lots of black men, no deadbeats. Some of them are divorced. Some of them had kids out of wedlock. Some of them, are still married. I know zero deadbeats. But for some reason, it seems like disproportionately our women seem to go directly to the deadbeats, and disproportionately. And I don't know if you've heard of this 80-20 principle, but the 80-20 principle says that, first of all, in all of recorded human history, only 40% of men have procreated, whereas 80% of women have. Women have always been the one that chose from a smaller portion of the male population who it was that they wanted to procreate with. Now it's more like 80-20, and some even say that it's more like 85-15.
Well, I don't know about that. I'd have to look at those. Can you give me some place to research that? I mean, people say things, but then they don't cite any studies or any research. So could you please do that? Because it's easy. People say things all the time, and then we find out that's not exactly true.
Okay, so rather than criticizing the statistic, let's pretend that the statistic that I'm presenting is actually true.
No, I don't want to.
You can do your research. Listen. You can do your research later.
No.
Miss Lady. Hold on, chill. Let him finish. Let him finish, and then you can respond. Miss Lady, let him finish, and then you can respond.
But he's talking on and on and on.
But Miss Lady, please, Miss Lady.
Stop yelling at me.
Listen, I'm not playing this tonight, Miss Lady. This is my show. I'm trying not to cuss tonight, man. I'm trying to relax myself today. You get me? He said, let us say it is true. You know what I'm saying? You have the capability the verified data and all that. But we just follow him for a second. That's all. This is not we're not gonna go back and forth and cut off because of the emotional feelings. Stop it. Go ahead, Dr. Funder. I'm gonna open the next line. Another person called, but go on, continue.
Yeah, I'm just saying that if you take what it is that I'm saying to be true, you can always research it at whatever point you want to. You can do that. But if this conversation turns into I have to qualify every single thing that I'm saying, we're not going to get anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying that so the 80-20 principle, where 20% of the men are sleeping with 80% of the women, and of course that 20%, in which might only be 10 to 15% these days with social media, they don't have to commit. They have many of them have multiple baby mamas, and they already had that before they got with the next one. So you tell me if it's a good mate selection strategy to select someone that already has two, baby mamas. And then if you think that something different is going to happen, you're going to get a better outcome. You're not going to get a better outcome. You're going to get the same outcome. But then you can't turn around and say all men are like this. No. First of all, most men are invisible to women. Most totally invisible. So let's take the 80% right off the top. They're invisible. So really what you're talking about is this small select group of guys that have access to all the women and do not have to commit. So it's not an even situation. So if you're spending your time, and I'm not advocating for finger wagging against anyone. I said finger wagging against the men because that's one thing that's been chasing men out of the church. So no, I would not be for finger wagging at the women because I wouldn't want them to be running out of the church either. I'm just saying we need to address all of the issues. All of the issues should be on the table. And it used to be that the pastor, the preacher, he would be relentlessly laying that stuff out every Sunday. Most people require an external motivation. Most people are not internally motivated to just do what's right. They need reminders. They need constant reminders. And that's all I was trying to say. And I thought she was starting in on an interesting point that was coming next, but, we didn't get to that. But I'm not trying to beat anybody up. And I certainly am not for, what did she say? Condemnation. I'm not for condemning anyone. That is against the basic, Christian principle. There is no condemnation in those that believe.
I agree. But at times I kind of respect Miss Lay. I'm gonna open next caller. Miss Lay, if you want to call back, that's fine. But like I said, I gotta move on to the next caller. I see the chat room. One person asked to move on to the next caller because how some women will be, but you know how it is. Dr. Fonda, I'm not sure if you have this problem on your own channel with this, but over here it's a little strange, especially when we talk about the Black church. People like getting their feelings, in a way.
Well, and I'll tell you, and this comes organically, and then the more that I have learned, my education, and the more sort of disparity that I see, the more this has become the case. But I am a Black men's rights activist, and Black boys, right?
Yes.
Because Black boys are going to become men. So the thing is that we can act like these issues don't exist and that Black men are not being disproportionately disenfranchised and targeted. We can act like that doesn't exist, and the mothers of these Black boys if you actually love your boys, you need to listen. You need to listen, because
Facts.
this is the stuff that they're
Facts.
going to be facing. You know? So anyhow.
I agree. All right, let's see. Next caller. All right, next caller. Open line. Who's this?
Big J. Now I gotta say something.
Big J.
There's a lot of forget about the misandry of the last caller, but let's talk about the error in what you said. Some of those stats that you said is incorrect. It's no longer 75%. The number of single parent or the single
mothers.
Huh?
The single mothers mean there's no more. It's not at a certain percentage. Go ahead.
No, it's no longer in the 70s. That stat is old as that stat's been around since Reagan was president. I wish people would stop repeating old stats. And
so, Big J, what's the percentage now?
It's about 63%, and it's dropping. So I wish people would stop regurgitating something what Dan Quayle said back in the 90s. I wish people would stop doing that shit, especially when those stats was used against black people. Now, here is the problem I have. A lot of the black church, they think they're teaching the women. Let me say something too while we have this come. There is too much focus on sex and relationships and nothing else. That's the problem with the black church, and it's a problem with this conversation. See, the whole conversation is about sex and relationship, and you, sir, are supposed to be a men's rights activist. But here's the thing: if you're supposed to be a men's rights activist, you're not expounding on the educational gap between black men and every other group. Black men are reading at an 8th grade education level, 8th grade level. That's the problem right now. And it goes back to another premise. Black churches don't have. If you go to a black church in the inner city, look what's on the right and look what's on the left of the church. Decrepit buildings surrounding it. If you go to a white church or any other church in the community, you see a business either that was assisted by the church or was built by the church. So you, sir, ain't going. See, if you want men to go, if you want men to attend the black church, there has to be some incentive for that black man and that black boy to stay in that church house, because there is no skin in the game for him when all around him there's no employment being built, and there's no fellowship, or there's no type of apparatus that sit there and make him be more educated, and put himself on the same par with his own female, or with the white man, or with the Asian man. It's always, I'm gonna say that, and the culture of black men has to stop. The culture, there's one thing about the culture of black men, it's going to have to stop. This barbershop thinking and thinking barbershop talk is all there is.
Hello, Big J.
There is an educational gap.
Hello.
That black men don't want to talk about.
Big J.
And it is affecting relationships. Y'all are affecting everything else.
Hey, I'm back. I'm back.
Yeah,
I got disconnected
my
right away.
Dropped for some reason. Sorry, guys. My line just dropped on response to you. I think you were muted. Dr. Fun, I apologize. My line just dropped for some reason. All right. I think I got what you said, Big J, in regards that is no longer in the roughly 70s, now down to the 60s. My thing is this: anything past 50% or approach 50% is high. So that's still high, nonetheless. So regardless, it was exact that it's either 80%, 90%, or 7%. Like I said, that's still high in regards to our community. Now, in regards to what you said earlier about the boys, you said something about the boys, right, Big J?
You want folks. See, I'm gonna say this one more again. See. It's always convenient when I talk. It's always somebody's phone got dropped or call got dropped or there's some static.
Big J,
one more
yeah, go ahead.
I find it convenient. I find it quote unquote convenient. Let me say this one more again. Black men, the conversation is sickening. I'm gonna tell you why the conversation is sickening. We're focused on sex and relationship. Black men should be worried about economics. You go to any black church in the intercity, what's surrounding that black church? Decrepit buildings, decrepit apartment complexes. There are hundreds of colleges and schools that are started by churches around this country, but none of them are black. But none of your major ones are black, I should say. I'll put it like that.
Yeah.
But if you want men to go back to the church, they have to have some. There should be some incentives for them to go to church. The black churches should be focused on building what's surrounding that city block.
I agree.
Having a business coming over there. And employ black men over there. And black men will come. If you build it, they will come. But this whole idea of be focusing on sex and relationships, that you're going nowhere. It's like you're thinking more with your dick than with the head on your shoulders.
Yeah.
And you got black boys, black men. Hell, fuck it. You got black men in their 40s and 30s reading at an 8th grade level. And some of them niggas are the hosts on this show. And you can hear them talk and hear them read shit. They're reading at an 8th grade level. So the focus should be on education and economics. The black church, every black church has the cryptic buildings all around it. How come though you haven't talked about that? If your mission is if you said you are men's rights, why are you excluding that out the way, sir?
Is that a question, Big J?
Yes, it is a question.
Okay, all right, relax. All right, that's fine. You could answer that question if you want.
Yeah, I'm not excluding anything. I would agree with what you just said. Earlier on in the conversation, I said that I did on my channel a program I do called Thunder's Thoughts, and we covered the topic was Adam the first simp, and I talked about simping. So that my definition of simp is prioritizing pleasure over purpose. Right? So that's a primary ailment for men. It's I think our sort of original sin. And until we conquer that, there's not going to be much that we can accomplish in life. So if we're chasing women instead of chasing the bag, that's always going to be a problem. That's always going to be a mistake. And you'll never become high value if you don't have D control. I mean, that's just facts. Now, as far as pursuing education, if you're not chasing women and you're actually about your purpose, then pursuing education is a much better. It's going to be
a better route. But it comes second
it's going to be a better route
because if you're not doing anything productive, the next best thing is to try to educate yourself either by institution or self-taught. And there are many avenues most people take. So in regards when I look at the purpose of man should be taken. Oh, I'm not finished. Big J. Relax. Big J. Stop. So men that's either on that direction or not, that is totally either out of my control and out of your control, Big J. Now, no one's going to hold nobody's goddamn hand. You know this, Big J. And let me ask you a question. Hold on, Rex. Let me ask you a question. Do you know Dr. Thunder? Do you watch this, brother? You know this guy, Dr. Thunder?
What are you talking about? Who said something about holding my hand?
No, I'm not holding by. I didn't say hold by your
hand.
I didn't say hold by your hand. You're not listening. As an adult, no other adult's gonna hold no other grown man's hand. I'm not talking about you. Listen, bro. Got it? Good. So let me ask you, Jay. You familiar with Dr. Thunder? Do you know this man?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
All right. So, since you're not familiar and you talk about people talking about getting ass and pussy, which that's their business, that's fine. We're talking about something totally different. I'm not sure why you call in and then you always refer to that people are talking about ass and pussy. Dr. Thunder, have we been talking about ass and pussy tonight? Hold on. Let me ask Dr. Thunder. Dr. Thunder, have we been just talking about that all night about ass and pussy? Brother?
No.
Okay. So, I'm not sure what time you listen into the broadcast. Most of the night times you come in the hour mark, which is typical for Negroes like yourself. Come here and listen to snippets or you want to say something, but have not listened to the whole goddamn fucking conversation. Now, I don't mind you implying about old data, new data. We're talking about the black church.
Yeah, but you
and it seems to me you're veering all the way off the topic right now.
Yeah, the dude was talking about 80,
brother. You're veering. Hold on, listen. You're veering off the top right now. You ain't even listening into the whole part of the whole conversation in this broadcast. Just by how you're going off the mouth, writing about some old stats. I'm talking about the topic at hand, and you're talking about something different. That's why I kind of asked you a few of these questions. You get me? Oh, BJ, this is why I asked you about these questions. So go ahead.
Did the host? Hold on, I'm talking to the host. Let me talk to the host. Can I have contact with the host? Or are you gonna get in the way of that?
Go ahead. You can talk.
No,
I'm sure you ask a question better, but go ahead. I'm listening. Go ahead.
No, sir. Did like you mentioned the 20/80 rule?
Yeah.
Okay, good though. Because you sit there and said 20/80 rule. Well, that applies to me though. The conversation was just about sex. So that's why I brought up the word sex and relationships, because that's where the 20/80 rule it came from, because that came from a blog site from a MGTOW blog site, from the Voice for Men website. Now that's why I said what I said. Now the focus is on too much on sex, because that's all I heard for the past 30 minutes. Your show been on for 42 minutes ago. I've been on here for 30 minutes. That's all I heard. So everything has to be about relationships or sex. And it's more than just relationships and sex.
Yeah.
Actually, this show has been going on for almost an hour and a half. So I'm not sure what time you listen in, but it seems like you have not listened to the first 30 minutes of the show. From way how you read.
That topic only arose due to a question. So somebody called in with a question. It was a woman. She called in with a question, and that's when that topic arose. So that wasn't what we were talking about. But they asked the question, and so I provided an answer to the question.
And didn't you talk about single motherhood before that crazy ass woman called in? Was you talking about single motherhood then before that?
I think I mentioned something early on about finger wagging against the men that have been in the church. That part, I do agree with you that Black church has done nothing but finger wag at men all the time, and you got women like Miss Lady who sit there shaking her head, love seeing another man downdress a younger man down. That's why I have a problem with Miss Lady. She likes that shit. She likes that man versus man shit. Man whooping on another man's ass bullshit for her enjoyment. So don't even worry about her ass. But here's the thing though. But the thing is, it seems like every time when Black men have conversations like this, it always revolves around sex or relationships, and it doesn't go beyond sexual relationship.
And one thing though, I have not heard you talk about.
I talked about all kinds of stuff in the beginning of the conversation.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, you just caught it late, and so by the time that you caught it, she had called in, and it sort of had changed some of the direction of the conversation. I still think that those points that I was making are critical points for women to understand, because I think that in general, women, because they're not even thinking about the huge percentage of men that they don't even consider as options. And so whatever men that they've had an experience with, that becomes the representative of all men. And the fact is that's not a fair representation of all men. You know, it's only a representation of that select group of men that all women basically want, that they're trying to target. And those men don't have to commit. They don't need to, and they could be deadbeats if they want to, because they're going to have women lined up that want them. I mean, besides the fact also that, you know, I talked about poor mate selection. That's a big issue. I know that when I was in high school, for instance, I frequently got clowned by, black girls that I would be interested in because I talk too proper.
Mm-hmm. I understand that. I'm not familiar.
Now, disproportionately, if you go back and look at how they're doing now versus how I'm doing, maybe they would have changed their mind, on what they were valuing. But we as black people, and in the black community, and I think the church should be leading the charge in this, should be pointing out, look, mate selection. Here are qualities that we need to glorify. Here are qualities that we need to subdue. We need to eradicate these kind of qualities. So you were talking about education levels. Look, if the dude can't speak in, proper English, then maybe that's not somebody that you should be considering.
That's not where I'm going at. That's not where I'm going at. Here is where I'm going at. And you totally misunderstood. I'm saying every other church, you have a school next to a church, you have a business next to a church. Black churches don't have. That's where I'm going at. That's where my focus is at. It seems like everybody wants to go about what's in a woman's pants, what's in a man's pants, instead of worrying about if you really want to eradicate the idea of the dumb moan dingo big dick nigger, then make sure your boys get educated so that the available option that women can only get is men who are viably educated, viably employed. Instead of worrying about
but that's exactly my point. Is I don't care what's in your pants. What I'm trying to get away from that. I'm talking about. I'm talking. Yeah, no. Well, I didn't even start there. Somebody else brought up whatever, question, whatever. That's not where I started. Where I started is we as black men, and I said this before. I'm very hard on black men because there's a burden of performance. There is no safety net. There is no safety net for black men, for men, period. But especially for black men. Now it may be inconvenient, but women, there is a glass floor. They can at least get basic needs met. For us, and this is why disproportionately homeless men, it's homeless men, not women. 98% of homeless people are men. It's because women have a line they can stand in. So there's a burden of performance. And if we don't get all of this stuff handled and situated, nobody cares about our excuses. And I went into detail about that, and I talked to my son, and he doesn't care if, why the lights aren't on, or why, the heat isn't on, or why he can't, why his, why he doesn't have anything to eat. He doesn't care about any of that kind of stuff. All he cares about is if it's happening or not. Right? So Yeah, so those are the kinds of things that I was saying prior, and my only comment about that was to actually elevate the conversation from these stereotypes about certain kind of men, and then that's why the women are choosing those kind of guys, but rather focus on purpose, and if you focus on your purpose and then you're going to tend to attract folks that are going to be a higher caliber kind of person. But anyhow, our women disproportionately, it seems that they don't exercise good mate selection, and that is a problem that we have to solve. Not just get the guys to level up and get their stuff together, and to have the institution
level up. You got to get the guys to level up first. You got to get the guys to level up first.
But we're doing that, and the statistics
show
that we're doing that.
No, we're not.
Well, absolutely are.
How?
Hold on. Wait. I'm gonna do this.
51% of black men are single and childless, and 64% are in the middle class.
I already know about that.
And then that is a significant upgrade from what it was in years past. So we are improving. I'm not saying that we need to stop. I think we need to continue to improving. I'm a tenured professor, and I decided that I wanted to get a doctorate after I had already gotten tenure. I didn't have to get a doctorate. I didn't have to do that. But I saw that was something I want to establish, a particular kind of legacy for my family and for my son. I want him to have that to look at, as the level to look up to, and to measure himself.
As a full accomplishment, as a accomplishment. Said, son, I reached this. I think you can do better.
Need to stop. Yeah, so I don't think we need to stop. We need to keep pushing, and I'm here to encourage.
Really? Well, tell me something, sir. Are you familiar with C.J. King?
Who?
Maybe not. Tell me something that.
Okay. It seems though. Here is my problem I have with other black men. Here's my problem I have with other black men on social media. Now I'm gonna use C.J. King as a prime example of this. He is.
Oh, you mean the guy that got the degree and that's a lawyer?
The law degree.
C.J. King.
Yeah.
Okay.
The one though who got the law degree, and then the went on a spiel on Instagram talking about I am the prize. And everything he said is referencing about what women have done to him in the past, rather than saying, well, I'm going to use my college degree or my law degree to help other black men out. See, that's the problem. It's too much focusing on sex, too much focus. It seems, I'm going to say this, it doesn't seem, it seems that black men focus their manhood. It seems like a lot of black men believe that their manhood ends and begins between the legs of a woman, or what's coming out of a woman's mouth. That's really I'm having a problem with, and I'm noticing this is a cultural issue that needs to change. Because all what you're telling me is y'all not changing shit because every conversation is barbershop talk. It's barbershop conversations. And that's all you hear is barbershop conversations. What a woman doing? Why is she doing this? Why, although she's a single mother, where are the fathers at? And this, that, and third. Oh, I'm not a cleanup man. I'm not dating no single mother. I ain't doing this. I mean, the same old rigmarole. But then,
let me ask you a question, Big J. After this.
The world.
So, Big J, let me ask you a question. Listen good, brother. You there? Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Would you marry a woman that have a child, a single mother? Would you do it?
Depending on what age I am and what age, depending on the time period. If I'm in my 20s, I wouldn't do it. But
does that mean
if you are in your 40s and well, I'm not in my 40s yet, but if you are in your 40s, that's all.
But we're in a new decade now. You know that, right? We're in a new decade
What?
now. And we are in a new decade right now. So you are now supposed to be approaching 40 now. We're in the 2020 now. You're aware of this, right? You're not in 25. You're not 30. Well, you're still in your 30s, but right now in this new decade, people that's born in a certain era will be 40. So that's why I asked you that question.
No, you're asking that question to deflect from my point. I know what.
And what is your point?
I know what you're doing.
That's not a deflection.
Yes, it is.
That's not a deflection. It's just no. It's not a deflection. It's just the point is that part of the reason why you think that the conversation is needless is that you yourself have already decided that wifing up a single mother in your 20s or something is not a good idea. So you've already decided that. But hold up, because there's a lot of 20-somethings that they haven't decided that. They still may think that that would be a strong financial decision for them. And it's obviously not. It's not a good decision. Now, when you get into your 40s, as you get older, obviously, most women, if a woman is worth anything, if she has any kind of relationship skill at all, then she's likely going to have a kid, right? And so then at that point, you're going to have to say, hey, well, I have a kid from somebody else. She has a kid from somebody else. Okay, let's see if we can make this work. That's a different situation. I think that message of really like saying, hey, marrying a single mother might not be the best choice for you. That most of that messaging is for the 20-somethings, because a lot of us are making those decisions. I'm not a 20-something, but I'm saying a lot of black folks, black men are making those decisions.
Why was I asked that question? When Gary damn well knows I'm not even in my 20s. Why ask that question when damn well knows I'm not in my 20s though?
You missed it. I think you're missing. I think you're missing.
No.
What I was saying is that it was not a deflection. He was just, I didn't see it as a deflection. He was not trying to belittle your point. I think in general, we agree with your point. We might have a different nuance or a different perspective on it. I'm not going to say that. Okay, so for instance, I think that there's this general assessment that you're making of black men that we're just focused on basically chasing women and X, Y, and Z like this. Well, the thing is that like I was saying, because of the 80-20 principle, we already know that that's not true. It's not true about the dominant portion of black men. The dominant portion of black men do not have access to most women. They just don't. And so they're relegated to.
You're not. You see again. I came on here to talk about business. You still talking about the 20/80 rule. That's what I'm talking about. You still focus on the relationships. I'm talking about making power moves, and black men are not talking about power moves. They're still talking about 20/80 rule. They're talking about single motherhood. They're talking about dating single mothers and all that. And that's just barbershop talk at this point.
Okay, so
that's
my question to you, Big J.
That's my problem. Black men
Big J,
BJ, their focus.
BJ, since you came.
Yeah, well, I don't have an issue. Like I said before, I don't have an issue with leveling up. I mean, that's what I do, and that's what I talk about. I have a series of videos called Leveling Up. So I don't have an issue with that, and that's the kind of stuff that I tend to focus on in my content. And I think you go to my channel, you'll see that that's there. But I also think that there is a need for barbershop talk, and there is a need for men to be able to express the stuff that they've gone through, without getting gaslighted and treated as if what it is that we face, that we go through, is of no issue. And the black church used to be a place where you could have those conversations, where there was mentorship available for people going through those kind of situations. But not so much anymore.
Yeah. You get it, Big J? All right. Because I got somebody else that's raised hand.
Look, I'm gonna say this straight up. Black men is still gonna be saying the same shit for the next 20 years, talking about the same shit over and over and over, and there's no resolution because the conversation is still going to be about relationships and sex, but nothing about power moves, and that's why I talk about. That's why those black men are not going through these churches, because the church is not building. No, you go to any black church, you don't see no black bank, no black owned store, no black hotels, no black this, that, and the third. What we have, no black school, no restaurant anywhere around that black church, or have been financed by that black church. That's my problem.
You didn't hear what I said. Again, you didn't hear what I said in the beginning of the conversation. You didn't hear what I said in the beginning of the conversation when I was saying that the black church should be providing mentorship for men. Disproportionately, we did not have a relationship with our dad, and so we need somebody to give us those kinds of that kind of counsel. In the churches where a masculine a pastor is at the helm, they don't usually have an issue with attracting men because they're talking on issues. They're not just talking about relationships and serving as a sounding board, but rather they're actually having conversations about investing in money, about leveling up, about becoming more organized, becoming more disciplined, about prioritizing purpose over pleasure, all of those kinds of principles. And that's why they're able to attract more men. And there are a select few of those churches that exist. Geno Jennings' church is like that. There's no shortage of black men in his church. Joel Brooks Jr. I worked at that church when I lived in Kalamazoo. No shortage of men in that church. But when he inherited that church, there was about 80% women in the church, and he focused on the men. And so that he was able to bridge that gap. It's a 50-50 church now, and has been for a long time. So, yeah.
All right. Yeah, thank you, Big J. And before I open next caller, this is going to be the last call for tonight. Big J, I don't mind you come up here and you referring to that you get tired of this same old conversations about dick and pussy and all this nonsense. Okay, I get it. But as a man, because I told you about Dr. Funny, you're not familiar with this brother, I'm going to put the links on my other channel of where you can find him if you want to subscribe to them. Because Dr. Thunder focused heavily with Ike Ojimi. I don't know if I pronounced the brother's name right, because I know Ike personally. I talked to him. I do, whatever. That they talk about self-improvement, better themselves, power moves, how to conduct business.
Right.
That's the whole
we've
purpose
got a
of
show
Dr.
together.
Thunder's channel.
Yeah, we've got a show together on Tuesdays. It's on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, called "Getting Ish Done," and it's a productivity. It's a podcast all about productivity and leveling up, getting your navigating the dynamics, in your workplace, dealing with politics, dealing with network issues, and all of this stuff. Right now we're talking about, well, we just finished one on leverage, basically using leverage as a way to elevate in your career. So stuff like frequently applying for jobs at other places, changing your professional setting frequently so that people don't forget what your value is, all of that kind of stuff. So we talk on all these kind of topics, and because both him and I did see that there was sort of a dearth of that kind of content. There's a lot of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin. There's a lot of that kind of content in the space, but not as much on the specific kind of organization and discipline and a lot of that kind of stuff. And so we're creating a lot of content on that.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say as a person, since you're not familiar with Big J, Dr. Funder, and I respect Big J to a degree, but when I look at you on other panels, bro, you're not on other panels talking about this self-improvement and talking about dick and pussy. Trust me, Big J, I'm on YouTube. I know what you do, brother. And the panels you be on, they're not talking about certain things like we are talking about tonight. You only caught snippets because of the raunchiness, the actual chaos. That's why you listen to this channel and listen to today's stream, because you heard the chaos and you called it. No, Dr. I'm being dead serious. Anytime when I talk about things that is, quote unquote, somewhat boring, he does not come around. But when it starts to pick up and it gets chaotic, sometimes Big J miraculously comes around. I don't know how it happens, but that's the nature of the beast. I'm chaos reign for a goddamn reason. And in this chaos, there has to be restored order. And with great chaos, I'm here to restore the order in which the world you live in today, brothers and sisters. So, next caller. Yes, caller, open your line. Who's this?
Hello?
Hello? Yes?
Hello, thank you for taking my call, Gary. I'd just like to know that I really appreciate...
Oh, how you doing, Sarge? Okay.
I'm doing very well, because your guest, it seems to be a very thoughtful individual who apparently is giving these sort of ideas the respect and consideration they deserve. And I was like, no, I appreciate his insight. But I'd like to elaborate a bit on the last question he asked Big J, because I think it's a very important and significant question to ask. And that question was, in case anybody's forgotten, would you be willing to marry a woman with a child? And I think part of the problem with determining an answer to this matter is the fact that you have a general proposition. Is it worthwhile, or is it advantageous, or is it good, or is it desirable to marry a woman with a child as a general proposition? And then two, you have the individual circumstances of the individual people involved in that relationship, which may or may not mitigate for or against that relationship. And with that in mind, I'd like to address the general proposition, because there's an infinite number of variables that go into an individual's decision to marry any particular individual, with or without a child. So, speaking of the general proposition, is it a good idea, or should you be willing to marry a woman with a child? As a general proposition, I would say, obviously it wouldn't be if every single woman with a child was a reprobate with a thorough brat who's not worthy of being raised to adulthood with a worthy male figure in their house. However, we both know, or we all know, that's not true. There's an infinite number of desirable, attractive, intelligent, and worthy women with children who are looking for a mate. With that in mind, the answer, as a general proposition, is of course. I believe every child, every human child, needs a male role model in their house on a continual basis. Failing that, certainly one in the wider world, because the essence of men and women is different. Children need both essences to be complete human beings, and all human beings need, particularly if they're heterosexual or even if they're homosexual, they need an intimate partner in their lives to be a whole human being. So the answer to that question, yes, you find the right person and you form that relationship.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. If that's just a statement, that's fine. I'm not sure if you want to respond to that. I'm Dr. Funder. I see one person raise their hand. I'm gonna take your last call. I'm caller. Any response to that? I'm Dr. Funder.
Yeah, sure. I like the sort of, there's the sort of general proposition, and then as a sort of specific, case by case kind of thing. And that again is sort of the anecdotal. Like you can find an anomaly, a situation where it may actually be a good decision, a good option, versus the sort of general. It's probably not a great choice, especially since there's a lot of women that don't have kids. Younger women in particular. I think that the age thing has a lot to do with if it would be something that makes a lot of sense to entertain. The age thing. So if I'm in my 40s and I'm looking for a woman that's in her, 30s or 40s, if she has relationship skill, it's likely that she will have a kid. Very likely. If she doesn't have a kid, then that actually may be a sign that something could be wrong with her, as far as just not having, the sort of relationship intelligence, or, being one of these that's basically continually been on the CC, if you know what I mean, for a long period of time and has never been in a committed relationship. So you don't know what you're getting, so to speak. But but if you're younger, then it seems to me that especially a black man is going to have unending options. If they get their money right, if they do what they need to do. First, I would probably advocate for a black guy to probably to wait until they get their money up. So maybe wait until you're in your 30s or something like that.
Mid 30s at best. Mid-30s.
Probably that would be my suggestion. Again, anecdotally, there may be scenarios that are different from that. And I would actually encourage women to consider men that are younger, and guys that don't actually have everything together yet. They can see the potential in them and struggle together to build something together. But that doesn't seem to be what women want to do.
Not in today's era, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And here's the funny thing about it. I don't mind if people that's in the same age range date, mate, and eventually marry, if possible, around that range. But we all know in today's society, in today's world, that's not what it really is right now, unfortunately. So, like always, like Nicole Michelle or any other things, even women that's teaching wife school and all that stuff, they always push most of the young women to deal with older men. I have no problem with it at this point. But I will say this. At the end of the day, if you're a person you're seeking to mate, couple, and, have like a family, you should know all the risks, the cost benefits, and then decide, is this the direction you want to go? And I'll be honest with you, Dr. Funder, because we're in such backwards era, us as a community now, because we're not doing that consistently, that now when we look at people who say men are waiting longer and stuff, and the reason why that is because the economics is different in this country. Hell, if you were like an adult back in the 80s, the cost, not only of living, but the dollar itself was not too inflated. Now because the dollar is inflated and we're living in very uncertain environments, and especially with the laws put in place, that really does hinder men, as much as I don't want to say it, but it does. That a lot of dudes, by default, are actually waiting because they don't want to get caught up. That's what it is. And these spaces and these content, for I do what you do or anybody does, is to re-educate men, not only on the purpose, but to know the pitfalls now. So that once they make a conscious decision that's the one that has his head straight, he will know what to do. So that way we don't hear him complain and, get the outcomes that they don't feel they're right to deserve, and develop what we call a rage. I've been hearing about this red pill stupid rage for some time now. I thought it was some myth or some nonsense, but when I hear dudes talking, you heard him talk too, Dr. Fun, if you around a lot of spaces. A lot of dudes have not gotten over certain things. The other men have to sit there and try to either not call them, but to counsel some of these dudes to what they're going through. And I don't like doing it because when I look at it, if I had to go do it and I'm older man, it's a problem. So like I said, it's better they know. We teach the ones young now, so they get it now, so that way they don't have to pay for it later. I cannot save every black man. Dr. Fern, you cannot save every black man. But what we do is important for the future young adults that's come up, your son that's come up. Even kids now that just finished high school that's 18 years old, born 2003, and probably 2004 and 5, that's coming up. They will know now. That's the purpose of all this information, whether women like it or not. Because this is the consequence when you raise your sons from 0 to 18 fucking years old.
Gary, let me interrupt you for a second.
Okay.
I just want to inform you that my PC did an auto update. And
I guess don't worry. I know what's the problem. I know I saw it right. It's good. Thank you.
Yeah, but it's back up on YouTube now. And if you guys are on YouTube listening, let your buddies know to tune back in. Everything is back up and running. And you can call into the number at 712-770-4160 to join the conversation with Gary and Dr. Thunder. But that's it, Gary. I'm going on mute, man.
All right. Let me take this final call. I'm gonna wrap this up. Caller, who is Greg?
Yeah, how you doing, man, Gary?
How you doing, Greg? It would be nice if you have a question. I don't mind you take a comment, but because we are on time.
I prefer to have a comment. I'll be brief. Look, I think for an older man, I'm in my 50s. I don't have a problem marrying a woman with a kid. It's no problem because most guys have kids at that age. But I don't recommend a brother under 30 or 27 marrying a woman with a child. I would highly I would discourage a young brother from doing that. Not because he doesn't love the woman or the child, because you have to deal with possibly her family, the ex baby daddy or boyfriend. You have to deal relationship with the child. The child may have resentment towards you coming in. You're not the father. You have to think about financial obligations. The kids probably go to college or whatever. You got to help raising. That's a financial burden, and I wouldn't recommend it for a young man under, say, 25 or 30 to be getting with a woman with a child. And one other reason, a selfish reason too. It also depends on how the child was. If she was married or a widower, okay, I don't have a problem with that. But if she just had a child out of wedlock, I wouldn't recommend that. And I'll tell you why, because I think by marrying these women, it's going to enable women to continue to get married, to have children out of wedlock. And we should discourage women having children out of wedlock. Therefore, we shouldn't.
Yeah, I agree.
Women. I'm sorry. We have to, as black men, we have to start having some standards in the black community. We have to, like other races of men, we have to test standards, and we don't have any standards. We need to stop marrying these women. And I'm sorry, that's just what I agree upon. That's what I think. But it takes us black men to stop marrying these women. We need to stop screwing these women too. I know we can't do that, but we need to stop. I know we need to stop it or start using birth control as men. Condoms. We have to quit putting babies in these women, because that's how they get their money. A lot of them, we have to stop doing that. We need to talk to young black men and tell them quit putting babies in these chicks, man. We need to have some standards as men. Okay, we really need to. That's all I had to say. I'm not being hating on women or whatever, but we have to start. We have to end this shit, man. This whole baby daddy, baby mother. But we got to end this shit and start promoting families, because that's how you get generational wealth, by having families. But we need to pass on wealth to our children through strong families, uncles, aunts, grandparents on both sides. Have all the siblings with the same father. We have to start doing that if we're ever going to get back on track. I know you guys talk about all this shit, the black women have their empowerment, black girl magic, all this stuff we're doing, but we're not doing it together. We're doing it. Black women are doing their thing. Black men are doing their thing. We need to get together. I don't see it's going to happen, because black women seem to want to do their own thing with their own families. And that's one thing we need to, I'll be brief. One thing we need to understand is that the black community is not black men, black women, black child. It's black women doing their thing, and then black men are doing their thing. We're not working together. That's the fact. That's what a lot of black men do not understand. The black community is black women doing their shit, and black men, we're just outside help to these women, and we need to quit helping these women. I'm trying to be an asshole, but I don't even give these women a jump start, man. I don't help them at all. We need to quit coaching their kids. We need to stop helping women, period. And we have to get them back in the fold by force. We have to force black women to start formulating families, which is black men, black women, black children. We have to force this down their throat, all right? This is the last go around here. You've only got 10, 50 years to correct this shit, maybe one more generation, and it's going to be totally lost. Black men need to stand up and be men and quit accepting this shit from these women, man. We have to be hardcore with them, all right? I know you guys don't have it in you. I do. I have it in me. I don't help these women. I don't help them. Fuck that. I seen one out here. It was hot as hell a couple of weeks ago. I didn't help her ass at all. Her kids, because if she had shit together, she wouldn't be asking me to help her. She would call her husband to come help her out. She asking me to go help her out with all these kids in the car. Why? How come she's not calling her husband to come get her? If my wife had a problem, she would call me, or she'd call AAA. I wouldn't leave my wife out there. The reason why, I'll let it go. Go ahead, Gary. I'm not trying to blow up the room tonight. Go ahead, man. Go ahead, bro. I'm sorry, but Doctor,
all right, that's good. That's good.
Man. Yeah, he's only. I wish he would go raw. He's holding Doc a little bit. I wish he'd just go raw with the shit, man, Doctor. That's what we need. We need black men to fucking say it, man. Like Kevin Samuels, man. We need to bring it out, man. Quit fucking around with these women.
Dr. Fun has done a good job tonight being very conservative. Listen, Dr. Fun, I know I've listened to a few streams. I have not listened to enough. Now I need to start paying attention more when I go to your channel. And I'm glad I subscribed to your channel, Dr. Fun, because you put out a lot of content. And one thing I will say is this, that you always can go as hard as how the viewer or listener wants to listen to it. You see, it's not nice talking about certain subjects, and it's not always based on sex. Sex is important, yes, but it's much deeper than this. It's the outcome of the community that we're witnessing right now that is in a shambles, is in the brinks of many collapse, just like this country. And if this country collapses tomorrow, we as people, we might be fine, but we're going to take the bulk of the collapse the most because we are so fractured. You get me? And I expect better. I want us to do better. And we're going to do better. And we have no choice to do better. And if it takes for us to be real rugged and hardcore and be upfront honest instead of being coddled, that's just one start. There's many more to really get people to really reflect on their outcomes. And one of them is, like I said, podcasting is one of them. To stop telling and preaching the same narrative that people have been comfortable with for the last 40 years. That's ending right now. As you can tell from the rise of many content creators, I know a lot of women are sitting there wanting a lot of black men that's spewing so-called hatred and all this nonsense to stop. I'm going to say personally, the chaos is here. And everybody loves it. They want it. And it's not going to stop. The only thing is, who's going to restore the order? It's not women. Hell no. They love it. They want more of it. And they want more chaos. They're hoping that that right Negro will not restore the order. And that's their greatest fear. That one or many black men that's going to tell them the truth and restore the order, that kind of keeps their ears, that comes out one ear and comes out, no, it's going to stay in the ear now. That other side of the ear is closed, ladies.
There is a solution. There is a solution.
What's that?
Okay.
What's that?
What we can do as black men, okay, there's two things we can do. Okay, I'm a Democrat, lifelong Democrat. But at some point, man, we're going to have to maybe, the black man, we might have to make alliances with these white boys on the right and maybe start passing some slight laws, maybe no Section 8 until you're 50 years of age, 55. We can do little things like I'm serious. What are you laughing, man? We can start some little shit, man, like that, like cutting down on WIC. I mean, it's just small shit, man. The food stamps, the WIC, and all this other shit. We can do little. Also, there's other things we can do. There's small things like we can have a petition, right? It's going to fail, but it will wake up these women, like no child support for unwed mothers. It's probably going to fail, but we could put that out there as black men, and women will fucking understand that we're trying to do some things in their eyes. Women, man, you got to hit them in the head, but we can do things like that. Just do a petition in your state. I don't know where you live. You live in Delaware, right? Right? Just have a petition out there no child support for unwed mothers. That will get the attention of these women. Trust me, even though it's going to fail, they're going to like, shit, these motherfuckers are real. The black man's real. We could do other little things like that, like Section 8. We could talk about raising the age of that, WIC program, a lot of little things we can do, man. We might have to make alliances with these far-right Republicans to do it, We might, because look, if you think about it, the Republicans have always talked about this family shit. I think it's bullshit, but they always talk about this shit. Maybe we can vote with them just on this shit, and because the black man can do this. I think Trump took 20% of the black man's vote last time out. I'm a Democrat, but if we work with these Republicans on the right to do these little things, we might be able to turn the clock down. Because look, man, we are at the end of the road. Because either they're going to win or we're going to win, and right now they're winning, and it's going to be total collapse. You know that these women get their way. We're already heading towards collapse. Look at the black community, man. It's nothing there. We're going to have to save you young brothers are going to have to save this shit. You're going to have to stick out your chest and do some shit. And I think the women want us to do things. Black women want us to they know black women know shit's fucked up. If you talk to them, they know it ain't right. But no black men are talking about this shit. If we start talking about this stuff, getting serious about it, and here is the kicker. We could talk about the preservation of the family. That's all we got to say. We're trying to preserve. That's it. That's the only code word we need out here. We're protecting the black family, preserving it.
Yeah.
That's
okay. Okay, Gray. Thank you.
As you were saying before, when they say, black community like this, in particular when they say black family, when the politicians say black family, they're not talking about black men. They're talking about black women and children, but in particular, they're talking about the women and the daughters, because the boys are going to grow up to be men.
You're right.
See? And if you look at the way that the education system is, it's been feminized, right? So say prior to, feminist movement, the maybe second wave feminism or something, there was a sort of a restructuring of the education system to make it, to provide a situation for women to, get better results, get an educational process that, catered to more the way that they learned and all of that kind of stuff. And now in high schools, you have 93% of college presidents and valedictorians are female now. So that's across all races. 93%. Okay?
Wow.
And what's amazing is when you state the statistic, people are like flabbergasted. Wow, I didn't even know that.
I didn't know that, man. Wow.
Yeah, how is it possible that a stat could be that skewed in that direction, that far that way, and there isn't like mass like everybody isn't up in arms about this, saying, look, we need to change this tomorrow. The reason is because the agenda is really, the more I think about this, the more I realize that, black men, I think, have it worse than anybody. But really what's happening is, really what's happening is it's an anti-male sort of agenda. It's an anti-male agenda. So, men commit suicide at much higher rates than women. Of all of the suicides, 75% of them are men. 98% of homeless people are men. Let's look at academia. Of the black academics, let's just talk about black academics. There are 20,000 more black female academics than black male academics. 20,000. I'm talking about tenured track professors. 20,000 fewer black men.
Judges too. They're taking over judges too. They're in that shit too, man.
So, but if the education system
is obviously biased in a particular direction, because we know that look, men aren't smarter than women. Women aren't smarter than men. Okay, I think we are wired differently, but we're more similar than we are different. So, are you telling me that women are that much smarter and more capable than we are, or is it just the way that it is set up promotes skills that they have in more abundance?
It's a good question.
I think it's the latter.
Yeah.
What about the stem cells? They aren't dominating that stem fields.
Because stem field is a type of menial labor that most women, and last time I checked, and Dr. Funder could probably back me up, and I've been hearing slightly from YouTube from a lot of men, that the government is funneling money, advocating, pushing women to be in STEM, but a lot of them not taking it because they don't want to do the type of work. Not so they can do work, but they don't. Doing STEM.
Well, women prefer work that focuses on people, and men on things.
Mm-hmm.
And
like
you have to like things a lot. You have to like things a lot more than you like interacting with people, in order to pick a STEM field. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the Scandinavian countries, they've done the most in their society to create an egalitarian society, and so all of this sort of nurture arguments, they have found ways to minimize the effect of some of the things, like blue for boys and pink for girls, and trucks for boys and dolls for girls and all like this stuff. As they're growing up, they have reduced that stuff, and then they have created these massive incentives for women to be in STEM fields. But actually what they've discovered is that when people are given a choice, fully free to make the choice they want to, they double down on their natural tendencies. And so what they thought that was going to happen was you're going to have more women in STEM, but actually you have less in STEM. More nurses now that are women, and more men that are doing STEM. So it did exactly the opposite that they thought it was going to do. And that's because men and women are different.
Exactly.
And it's because we're oriented differently.
Yeah.
Greg,
yeah. I got to move on. Yes, I don't mind have you on, but thank you, Greg. All right, thank you.
All right, I'll listen in, man. All right.
Yeah. I don't know why somebody raised their hand. I'm not. Well, should I see? Well, let me say this. What I've learned, Dr. Funder, is they were testing the waters. Just, like you said, what people really want to do, if was given the opportunity in regards to funding, and the push say, if you want something, you're going to have to go to this field. And it's proven evident that women don't want to do certain fields. So now that they did this little test, my biggest question I should ask, will they start refunding the income or wherever the money needs to go to men, since men gear more to STEM, the society, or are they going to just say, screw, we're going to force women to be in a certain field? Because you can't force somebody at the end of the day, but
no. And there's a YouTube video, couple white cats, they're comedians, and they did this video basically where they were advocating for women more representation in every aspect of the work environment. So anywhere from plumbers and brick masons, and window cleaners, the guys that climb the telephone poles, to do that kind of work. Wow. See, the thing is that it's a joke. It's totally a joke. But the point they're making, which is very clever, is that women tend to only the feminists tend to only cry about the jobs that they perceive will give them power.
Mm-hmm.
They don't cry about the underrepresentation in, stuff like being a brick mason, and stuff like that, where there's hardly any women working in that. But why aren't they clamoring for equality there too? I thought women can do all the same thing guys do. So it's a little disingenuous. But I think what it is that they're doing. I mean, look, in mass, women are going to want to do different things than men. You're going to have anomalies. You're going to have some women that they dig the STEM stuff or stuff like computer programming, computer science, and they're just all about that. And that's really the way that they're oriented. But for the most part, it's not going to be that way. And if you're not going to get equal, I mean, you may get equal opportunity, but that doesn't mean that you're going to get an equal outcome. Because there's free will that's in the way. People have to choose what they do. Having a free society is not about having, the same proportions exactly of every category of person, from race to age to sex and all of this kind of stuff. That's not the point. The point is to have a society where if you want to pursue something, that you can.
Okay. Makes sense. Before, wait, let me see who's last caller. Let me see. Caller, who's this?
Yeah, it's me again, Gary, and your guest. Oh man, you have really hit a gem with this gentleman, sir. You are spot bloody on. But I'd like to ask what a question. I'm sure you probably know the answer, but what do logging workers, commercial fishers, sailors and marine oilers, paving service and tamping equipment operators, dredge, excavating loading machine operators, over-the-road truck drivers, derrick rotary drill operators, roofers, maintenance workers, woodworking machine setters, septic tank maintainers, refuse collectors, structural iron and steel workers, farmers, ranchers, and the like, and rail, track laying, and maintenance equipment operators, what do they all have in common?
They're jobs that women don't want.
Yes, and they are the most dangerous occupations in the world and the United States, with the highest death rate per 100,000 per capita. And women do not demand to be let into these jobs. That's one thing I've noticed. And the point you made about power, that's the kind of jobs they want. And in fact, when I heard Brother Greg speaking just a little while ago, I said to myself, Brother Greg, you sure are brutal. I mean, you are absolutely brutal. But you know what? Brother Greg is speaking to an essential truth. He is doing, chemotherapy is destructive to living cells. But it's often what is necessary to save the organism. Without it, the organism completely dies. And I think Brother Greg is advocating a form of chemotherapy to save the black family and to restore to his rightful place the black male at the heart of his family. He may be, his solution, as unlikely as it is to pass given today's political climate, may be the only thing that will work. And I'm going to say this, and I don't care who doesn't like it, it's utterly impossible with Democrats as they're presently constituted in charge. It cannot succeed. Even Republicans will whimper around it and whine about it. Well, it's just not feasible right now. We can't think of doing that. We don't want to alienate, blah, blah, blah. But the Democrats will call you an enemy of the state if you try to play
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm a third party guy myself. I actually think that we need a black party.
But Democrats will actually try to put you in jail if you bring up a solution like Greg did. You'll be literally an enemy of the state who should be exiled to Siberia somewhere.
Well, that's Greg, but we don't worry about it. But thank you, Sarge, for calling. Thank you very much, brother. Thank you. All right. Now, the solution part. What do you see, or any suggestions or solutions that the black church could do in regards to, I'm not saying improve, but what is needed for the black church to show and prove to better blacks in this new century and moving forward?
Okay. Well, so one thing is, I think that there needs to be en masse, there needs to be an acknowledgement of the problem. So there needs to be, by church leadership, by black ministers, they need to acknowledge that this is an issue. We need to quit pretending like this is not the case. I mean, I've been flabbergasted at the number of ministers that I've had conversations with that were not aware of of this dynamic. I think it's because they have grown so accustomed to seeing this, not very many men in church, and just thinking that was normal, for black church. But it didn't used to be that way. It's gotten worse. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I think we need to also acknowledge, and I think the church can acknowledge that since it has done maybe a disservice and has not done as good a job as it could have done addressing men's issues, they need to start addressing those issues. But in order to hear from the men, they need to go to locations where they can have real conversations with the men. And there's a lot of exiled Christians in the black manosphere. So I would advocate for, panel discussions and the like with content creators on content creator platforms that they will allow. Actually, I organized a couple of these panel discussions on O'Shea Duke Jackson's channel. Shout out to him.
Excellent.
And we did these were a few months ago. It was like in February. There was a couple of them, and one of them, the first one, was really received well. Both of them I thought was received well. There was some issues with some shadow banning or something for the second time we did it, but the panel was two pastors. One of them was one of the pastors that I mentioned, Joel Brooks Jr., and then the other one is John Coates, Reverend John Coates. And we had, and then I had a couple musicians on there, a couple pastors' kids, and then, of course, myself and O'Shea moderated. And it was a really great conversation. It was frank, and we got into some nitty-gritty. But I think more of those kind of conversations need to happen. I mean, I'd like to see a conversation with with folks like T.D. Jakes, folks like I mentioned him earlier, Geno Jennings. These kind of folks with folks from the manosphere. Kevin Samuels, for instance, he worked in as a ministry leader for singles ministries in 3 different churches. Big churches, and he's a Christian. He grew up Christian. He talks about that frequently. He's actually which is not particularly usual for the manosphere space, but he is an advocate for marriage, and so I think that there can be some middle ground. You have podcasters like The Roommates, who is Christian guys, and basically their podcasting stuff was kind of an outgrowth of a Bible study that they did at their college, the college they went to. So you have a lot of that kind of stuff that's happening. And of course, I'm a Christian guy. Ike Ogiamian is a Christian guy. I think that there are lots of ways. No, Ike's Christian. Okay. But it's what's interesting is there are lots of opportunities to have these conversations. I think people are hungry for these conversations. There already is sort of a spiritual dimension in the manosphere. I mean, you hear people talking about stuff like no fat. There's a lot of content creators pushing for people to get off of porn. And talking about how porn is negative and kind of it kills your drive. You're trying to level up, and you're trying to put your purpose over pleasure, and that ain't going to happen if you spend a lot of time doing that, engaging in those kind of behaviors. So there's that kind of stuff that's happening, which of course that's a Christian message. And yeah. So anyhow, I mean, so I think that there's a place in the manosphere, I think, to have those conversations. But I think inviting some of these kind of content creators, especially folks that have really big names like O'Shea and Kevin, and to invite them to the table. O'Shea grew up in church, and he's done a number of videos on the church, So I think that there's folks that want to have these conversations. But I think that the Black church would have to show an uncommon resolve. I think that there's certain unholy alliances that the Black church has developed with the Democratic Party, with certain feminist sort of agenda items that are clearly not traditional Christian, values. But that's not the history of the church. I think there needs to be a return to, just preaching from the Bible and letting people have it. If it's popular or not, that doesn't matter. Get away from a lot of the flashy stuff and start focusing on substance. Substance over style.
Well said. Well said. You came through, you saw, you conquered, Dr. Thunder. I hope this was appealing and very much an interesting discussion, Dr. Thunder. I know I enjoyed it. I hope you did. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure anybody besides the many panels you took place had really made it interesting first time. I hope this was worthwhile, Dr. Thunder, you coming on my show. But yeah, this is good. I learned a lot, man. Has my outlook on church I look at it pretty differently now, how I view church now. And I think moving forward, these are things that is a necessity. And I think most Black church, they go eventually have to turn around anyway, because a lot of young people, either they're millennials or Generation Z, they are slowly waking up to the reality. And if they don't see anything of real tangible substance from any institution of a church near their home or their street corners, and we have a lot of Black church, mind you. In every Black neighborhood, we have like maybe 10 or 20 lined up. So I see that, out of those many churches, one of them is going to get it and do what's necessary to really grasp and get back the hearts and minds of the few that's located in their local cities. But only time will tell. Only time will tell. Any way for people to follow you throughout the digital space? Hold on. Is my thing working? Hold on, guys. A lot of funny there. No, he must have a problem with his line. I'll give him a few minutes. Let me check. Yeah, my light's on. If you're there, you might mute yourself, Dr. Thunder, if you're there. Yeah. Okay. That's weird. Okay, well, don't know if I lost Dr. Thunder, but there are links. I will probably have to put the links to where y'all could follow him, where to find him, Dr. Thunder himself. Oh, and let y'all know he does have a YouTube channel, so his name Dr. Thunder on YouTube, so you could subscribe to his channel. Like I say, he talks about a variety of topics. Most of them are empowering, self-improvement topics, So. Okay. Anywho, I probably will call this a night. I thank everybody for listening to today's stream. Be on the lookout for the next upcoming stream. I'm supposed to have a special guest, so keep an eye out for that. Wait, hold on. Let me. 1 second, guys. Let me do this because I think all right. Let me just look at the chat room. I'm glad the chat room has been busy. All right. I guess I lost Dr. Thunder. Yeah, I lost him. All right, guys. I'd like to thank everybody for listening to today's stream. Like always, if you want to catch me or want to follow me on Facebook, Eric Rain. And also, give me a tweet and follow me on Twitter at ChaosRain7. And like always, take care and good night.
I'd like to give a special shout out to Dr. Thunder for coming on to today's or tonight's broadcast. I'll leave the links for you to follow him, Dr. Thunder. So thank you again, Dr. Thunder. And like always, comment, subscribe, and like this video. You can follow me on Facebook, Eric Rain. And you can follow me on Twitter at ChaosRain7. Thank you again for listening. And until next time, let it chaos reign.